Today we're going to be taking a look at this, the new Defender 25 from Iflight. Now this is a new ready-to-fly Cinewhoop from Iflight that has the DJI O3 FPV system built in as standard. Today we're going to take a look at this quad, we're going to tear it down, see how it's built, and then going to take it for a fly and at the very end share with you my thoughts. Just before we get into that though, I just want to say Iflight did send me this quad for free. However, they have not seen this video before it's been published. I have not been paid to make this video. And as always, my thoughts and opinions are entirely my own. I will never be influenced by anyone who sends me something, regardless if it's expensive or cheap. I will simply, as I always do, tell you my open and honest thoughts. And that's what I'm going to do here today. Anyway, let's get on with it and let's see what you get in the box. Okay, so just to show you what you get when you buy a Defender 25, when you lift the lid, you'll find inside, when I get it off, a piece of foam packaging. We should then have some instructions, which is the leaflets for the radio receiver type, as well as a couple of other things and some stickers in there as well. We have our Defender 25 drone ready to fly in the box. We then have the battery fitted on top. We have some cables for the charger, which we'll take a look at a little bit later, some additional accessories and screws, and then this customized charge board on the side. Now, the Defender 25, being an off-the-shelf ready-to-fly Cinewhoop, is always going to draw comparison to the DJI Avata, especially considering the fact that they are both similar looking, they both have O3. But they are very different drones. Whereas the Avata is a starter Cinewhoop, this is more of a traditional Cinewhoop that comes in a ready-to-fly package with some customized features. For instance, it is a Betaflight based quad with a customized flight controller from Iflight. It has O3 built in, but it is based on the O3 air unit underneath. It is not customized like it is on the Avata. It has a fixed angle camera. You can't adjust it. It doesn't have GPS. It doesn't have all of that DJI safety or nannying features. It is very much a 2.5-inch prop Cinewhoop. It does come with this hard-cased LiPo on the top, but I wouldn't class this as a proprietary battery. It is simply a 4S LiPo that has this custom latch mechanism, so you push the buttons in at the sides, lift it off, but it is a standard LiPo battery, and if you didn't want to use this, you can simply use another normal LiPo, create a strap, and plug it into the XT30 port on the back. Obviously, there are some design elements of this quad that does give some similarity to the Avata. For instance, we have the antennas located at the bottom here, and it does have a similar look, but really it is a proper Cinewhoop designed to be quick and easy to set up and get flying and not have many of the limitations that you would find from the likes of the Avata. Now, just to go over the main specs on this drone before we move forward, the Defender 25 is fitted with an all-new Blitz D25 F7 AIO. That flight controller features the ICM 42688P gyro. It has 32 megs of onboard black box storage, a baro sensor, and a 2.5 amp 5-volt BEC. It does have a customized connector for the DJI O3 air unit, but it isn't supplying power to that O3 air unit from the back. The power for the O3 is coming directly from the main flight battery. It features the Iflight Defender 1404 motors and what they call the Defender 25 2525 props, which are 2.5 inches. The frame is made from a combination of plastics and composites. It appears to be mostly plastic around the sides. We have this composite section in the middle, which is offering all the main structure for the motors and all of the components to bolt to. As I've said, it does come with this customized hard-cased LiPo, but it is a traditional LiPo and supports an XT30 input at the back. Obviously, this drone has O3 built in as standard, but it is standard O3. There is nothing specific about it. We have the O3 camera up front here, and then we have the O3 air unit in the bottom with these customized antennas located under these little legs on either side. Now, the way the drone's put together is the main electronics and all of the motors are mounted to that top frame plate. And then you have the O3 air unit and a few other pieces mounted into the bottom plastics. There's also a spark arrestor fitted to this model as well as part of the main XT60 connector on the back. We do have some LED lighting built in as well. And overall, what Iflight have done is built a nice ready-to-fly off-the-shelf Cinewhoop. Now, the battery is something that's going to warrant a little bit of discussion because there's quite a lot of interesting things here. What we have is a custom battery for the Defender 25. It's not really correct to say that it's proprietary. It is proprietary in the sense of its form factor, but it isn't proprietary in the sense of its connectivity. It is a 4S LiPo. The one you get as standard comes in at 550 milliamp hour. It is a hard-shelled 4S LiPo battery with an XT30 style connector up here and a proprietary push connector for the balance ports. It is not, though, a smart battery. It has none of the smart features that you would expect to find like in DJI batteries like on the Avata. It doesn't have self-discharge. It doesn't have any of those smart functions that DJI include. And as a result of that, what it is a protected LiPo battery specifically designed for the Defender 25, but it doesn't mean that you can only use this battery on the aircraft. The very basics are, it is a 4S LiPo in a customized protected shell, but it means that if you didn't want to use this, you could modify your Defender 25, either replace these standoffs and put a strap in place, or simply use this with a traditional LiPo and it will work absolutely fine. There is no data communication between this battery and the drone. The drone itself simply has an XT30 input. The battery has an XT30 output. There is this pushing connection here, which is used for charging, but that is not used to communicate with the drone at all. Now, just to show you that the battery is simply a 4S pack in an external housing, I've popped the cover off this one. You can see we've got our cells down there. We've then got our balance connections just going to this PCB, which houses that connector for the external balancing. And then we've got our rubberized wires that go to the XT30. There is no additional electronics in this pack. There's no smarts. It's just a hard-cased 4S LiPo. Now, one downside to this customized battery is the fact that you can't balance charge it on a normal LiPo charger without this, the included charge adapter. They do give you this in the box with the Defender 25. It's not a charger in itself, it's simply an adapter plate. It takes the battery, it allows it to clip in and then plug in up there with the XT30. And the real purpose of this plate is to allow it to be balance charged via that custom connector down there. You then have a balance port at the top here and an XT30. You get these cables included with the box with it as well. They are removable off the adapter, but you can leave them plugged in if you wanted to. The real sort of downside to this is you're going to have to make sure that you do carry this plate with you if you're out and about, if you wanted to charge in the field. You could charge the battery without this plate, but you'd only be able to charge it via the XT30 connector. You would not be able to balance charge it without having this adapter with you. Now, looking over it, it really just is a couple of pieces of what appear to be carbon fiber or some form of fiberboard. There's a 3D printed section in the middle, and then you've got your XT connections up here, XT30 and balance. We've got our XT30 to the battery, and then that balance port there that plugs in to that balance port on the bottom of the battery. Now, alongside the 550 milliamp hour battery they include with the drone, there is a 900 milliamp hour larger battery available as well. The overall shape and size is identical. It is simply that it has larger cells inside and as a result, more capacity. There is obviously going to be a difference in the weight as well. So if we put them on the scales, the standard 500 milliamp hour cell comes in at 70 grams. And then the 900 milliamp hour comes in at just under 100 grams at 99. So obviously there is a payoff with regards to weight when you do increase that capacity. Looking at the weight, what we have for the Defender 25 itself, it comes in at about 172 grams. If we then take the standard 550 milliamp hour battery and add that in, we're getting an aircraft that comes in under that 250 gram mark, showing about 242. If we, though, pick up the larger 900 milliamp hour battery that's going to give you that additional flight time, it does go over that 250 grams, coming in at 271. Now, just looking at some of the accessibility of the connections on this, we have our XT30 at the back here, nice and easy to get to. We have a USB-C port at the back here for updating the firmware on the flight controller or connecting to Betaflight. And then the connection for the O3A unit and the SD card is down here. There's a cutout in the bottom of the frame to get to the card slot and the USB port for updating. I'll be honest, this is far easier to get to than the card slot on the Avata, and Iflight have done a real nice job with regards to the accessibility on this quad. Iflight have also included a mini camera mount up front as well, allowing you to fit an action camera if you wanted to. Now, as I have mentioned, my Defender does have some LED lighting built into it. However, I'm not sure that the retail models get this. So whilst I'm going to show you this, I do just want to put some caution out there that it is possible that the retail model that's going to be available won't have this fitted as standard. Now, as I've already mentioned, the O3A unit on the Defender 25 is not powered by a BEC, it's powered directly by battery voltage. However, it doesn't actually go straight to the battery. It is wired through the flight controller, and there's a VTX switch installed, allowing you to be able to turn that O3A unit on and off before you fly. This feature is disabled as standard when you get the drone, i.e. the A unit should just come on and work, but you do have the ability to configure it in Betaflight to allow you to be able to have it on a switch and turn it off so you can prevent that O3A unit overheating before you take off. To configure this, you need to go into Betaflight, go down to your receiver tab and make sure that you have the switch you want to use on an aux channel. As standard, the aux channel configured for this is aux 8. You don't have to use aux 8, but if you do set the switch you want to use to aux 8, it will be pretty much configured out of the box. As you can see, if I move my switch now that I want to use for this, you can see that aux 8 is moving as expected. If we then go down into modes, what you want to do is scroll down to the bottom and you're looking for user 1. This is the mode that the VTX switch is configured to. When you receive your Defender, it should come with the whole range covered like this, meaning that the VTX or the O3A unit will be on all of the time. However, if you are having problems getting your O3A unit to work, this is something you should check, because if this wasn't configured like this and was configured like this, for instance, your O3A unit would not power up. The way I'm going to configure this is I'm going to configure it in such a way that when my switch is in the top position and the middle position, it is going to be on, and only when my switch is in the bottom position is the A unit going to be off. That way, I have some backup that I'm not going to accidentally knock it to the middle position and cut the video, and it will only happen if I was to put the switch in the fully down position. You could also configure this to the same channel as arming if you wanted to as well. That way, when you arm the aircraft, it would then kick in the power to the A unit and have it working. However, I personally prefer it on its own switch. And just to demo this, it's currently set on this top switch here, and that's currently set to off. So if I now power up the Defender, you'll see it kick in. And if I just tilt it down there, in there, you'll actually be able to see the LED from the A unit. So when I actually now flick this switch down, you just should then see it power up. There you go. You can see the green light kicked in. And then if I flick the switch back, you can see it's gone off. So it's going to allow you to be able to get the quad powered up, but not have that O3A unit overheat while you're messing around with stuff. Obviously, on a whoop of this size, you don't want to be spending too much time waiting to take off, but it does just give you some extra time before the overheat kicks in on the O3A unit by being able to put that on a switch just like that. Okay, so it's time just to share with you a little bit of flight footage. Now, I'll be honest, weather here has been horrific since December. I haven't had as much flight time on this quad as I would have liked. I have had a bit, though, that I didn't record, just shakedown flights, tests, and just the usual stuff to make sure it's performing as I would expect. Now, this flight here was on a little bit of a windy day at the field. It doesn't look particularly bad, but I will put the side-by-sides up in a minute. And in fact, with any whoop, it doesn't take a lot of wind before things start to destabilize. However, I will say this aircraft does fly very well overall, and the O3 does a good job of stabilizing the footage. This was recorded in 4K 60 with the Rocksteady image stabilization turned on. Here next to it, you can see it with the stabilization turned off, just to give you an idea. It wasn't shockingly bad, but what I was getting was gusts that were pulling me all over the place in the field. Now, out the box, the tuning is pretty good, although I did need to add some expo to the throttle as well as the sticks. I always add a little bit on everything, and just set the throttle position down to about 0.4 is about midpoint I was finding on this quad. So it is something you may want to adjust depending on your controller, and put a bit of expo on it there as well. Overall, it does fly very well, and I've got no complaints about it at all. I also managed to get it out into the woods and just do some flying around some of the trees. Now, I didn't want to get too close to them because there's no foliage on this time of year, and it's actually quite hard to see the branches even on the O3 system. So I did try to keep it out of the way of anything that I might lose it, or at least I might not be easily able to get it back. Overall, though, it does a decent job, and it was quite calm today as well. That way, this image stabilization didn't really need to do much, although the light level was again very, very poor, and you can see that noise in the footage. The real nice thing about this aircraft is because it does fly so well, you can easily get it in and out of the trees, the branches. You can move it around and navigate through the places you wouldn't usually want to put something like a 5-inch quad. You do soon start to find yourself wanting to put it into places you certainly wouldn't usually tend to go. Also in the testing, I did have a few crashes. The first one, the wind pushed me to the side a bit more than I was expecting, and I caught the tree. And the second one, I caught a branch and ended up in the top of the tree and ended up disarming, and the aircraft then fell to the ground and hit the concrete. Now, in this crash, it did cause a bit of damage, which we'll go on to take a look at in a moment. Just to show you that, if you look at this back duct, you can see that it doesn't look particularly straight. If I put it on its side, it has split up here. There's marks all the way around there. And if I show you it from there, there's actually a split that runs down towards the bottom. Now, as I've said, it did have a bit of a fall from about 15 foot onto concrete. It hit a branch and I disarmed, and then it came down and landed. Obviously, it seems to have come down like that. If I show you it from the side, you can see that this duct is showing bent up, and if I show you it from the back there, you can clearly see that it is pulled up that way. I'm going to put a bit of heat on this in a minute and just straighten it up, but I will order a new replacement duct. There's not really any other major damage. The frame is fine. There is some marks on the bottom foot there and this foot here, but really it's just that outer duct that's taken the big hit, and it must have come down like that more than anything. Now, I'm going to order one, and when it comes in, I will make a replacement duct video showing you the process, just walking you through it, and if you're interested in seeing that, please do make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Really, I just wanted to show you this just to say that it is possible to damage this. It isn't as solid as the likes of the Avata, but the payoff for that is that you're getting a proper lightweight drone that does allow you to carry an action camera as well if you want to, without all the weight penalties that you do get from the likes of the Avata, but that then does come with some loss of rigidity and some potential for damage if you were to have a big crash. Okay, so it's time for me to share with you my thoughts on the Defender 25 from Iflight. Before I do that though, I just want to be clear up front, Iflight did send me this quad for free. However, they have not seen this video before it's been published. I've not been paid to make this video, and as always, my thoughts are entirely my own. I really like this little Cinewhoop from Iflight. I think they've done a lot of real nice things here. Ready to fly, It does have that easy to use clip-in battery. It has DJI O3 built in as standard, and it does perform very well. It acts as a proper Cinewhoop. Yes, it doesn't have many of the safety features that the DJI Avata has, but it also doesn't have the nannying that the Avata has either, and you can fly it like you would want to fly a proper Cinewhoop. I'm on the fence about this battery situation. I do like the simplicity of this sort of customized battery. Just clips in and out very easily, and it is solid because in my crash it didn't come out. The battery stayed in the quad. Again, better than the battery on the Avata. However, it does come with some limitations. You can only buy them from Iflight, although they're not that expensive. And if you want to charge them in the field, you do need to bring that battery adapter with you. And if you wanted to charge more than one battery at a time, you're going to need multiple adapters. What's really nice about this quad is it is an out-the-box, ready-to-fly Cinewhoop that you don't need to add an action camera to because it has that DJI O3 system built in as standard. Also, the integration of that O3 system on this, in my opinion, is actually better than what DJI have done on the Avata. The access to the ports underneath is much better than on the Avata. You've not got a stupid flap moving around that can catch in the props. You don't need silly long fingernails or tiny fingers. There's just a cutout in the side where you can get to the SD card, and it's quick and easy. Now, this drone is priced at somewhere between $530 and $560, depending on the model you get. The one I've got here is the Express LRS edition. Obviously, that is a lot of money for a Cinewhoop, but you are getting an action camera style drone here without the need for many other accessories. You don't need to put a GoPro on it. You don't need to choose another action camera because you do have that O3 air unit with that 4K recording, image stabilization with Rocksteady built in, or you can stabilize it in gyroflow if you want to as well. It isn't as strong as the Avata in many ways, and as I've already shown, you can damage it, but parts are cheap for it as well. And because it isn't a proprietary drone like the Avata, you can repair it yourself. It is fairly straightforward to take apart, as I've shown inside, and it is well put together, and I don't think anyone would have too many problems doing a repair on this if they needed to. Overall, what we have here is a nice out-the-box Cinewhoop. It flies well, it's got plenty of power, it gives good image quality. There really is a lot to like. As for the battery situation, you've got to make your own mind up if you want to go down that road, but remember, you're not limited to it. You could take the clips off, put a battery strap on it, and get on with your life just like you would on any other model. Now, that's pretty much my thoughts on this one. If you're interested in getting one, I will put a link to it in the description. As I've said, I will be making another video on this quad in the future when I be changing the duct because I have damaged mine. And if you're interested in seeing that, please do make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Finally, I just want to say, if you have found this video interesting, please do let me know what you think in the comment section. If you have any questions, put it in there and I will try and answer it as well. Furthermore, if you'd like to support the channel to allow us to keep making content like this, please do consider checking out the link to my Patreon or buy me a coffee. We would not be able to keep making content on this channel without the support of my Patreons, and I want to say a massive thank you from me to everyone who does support the channel, and if you'd like to support us, please do consider checking it out. Anyway, that's it from me. Stay safe. I'll speak to you soon.